Welcome. I'm excited. We're making a blind date book for Valentine's Day, and who wouldn't love to have a blind date book arrive in the mail that's an avid reader and have a little joy in their life? I got this wrapping paper that has the grid on the back from Target, and we're going to wrap the book like a present. We are going to wrap it using washi tape on the back, but if you don't have washi tape, you can use regular tape. Just don't get any tape on the book and just pull your paper tight and wrap your book just like you're going to wrap a present. Now, this doesn't have to be just for Valentine's Day. You could use any theme like a birthday, Christmas, Easter, just all sorts of themes so you can think outside the box. This may not be economical for a craft fair, but I sure love it because it is something that I'm giving to the 4 avid readers in my life. I just thought it would be fun to open up that mailbox and receive a mystery gift. We are going to use 6x6 paper pad for this project. If you know me, I love to use 6x6 paper in so many different ways, and this is one of those ways. And I will be cutting the 6x6 paper in a triangle to create pockets for the front of the book, instead of having to do those fancy folds with the wrapping paper. I just found this to be super easy, plus it adds just a little bit of creative touch to the book and dresses it up. And you will need to do this to 2 sheets of paper from your paper pack. Then you are going to just kind of lay those out on the book. That's how I like to see how I want to display them. And I decided for this book that I was going to alternate the paper back and forth. You'll want to use regular glue instead of double-sided adhesive. It works out better, especially for positioning the pockets. Now, when placing your pockets onto your book, you're going to want to start with the pockets at the top, not at the bottom. If you do not start with the pockets at the top, it will not lay out properly. You will also want to use your glue going down the side of the book and across the book. So when I lay this down, the glued sides are on the side and across the book. And then I will just trim off the excess. And this will be fine because you're really not going to see that. It gets covered up by the next triangle. And you're going to repeat this process 4 times across the book. And you will have 4 little pockets to put your items in. And I just love how this turns out, because it just really adds some pizzazz to the book. It also would be beautiful on some colored wrapping paper that's solid. So that is another idea that you could do for your Valentine's Day book. And that gives you the pockets, and just let that dry. Just to show you a different look with washi tape, I used a craft washi tape to decorate the back of the book. You don't have to uniformly cut this, but you can if you wish to. It's just something, and you could use a totally different like craft paper to go with the book. Let's create a bookmarker to go with our blind date book. Using the 6x6 paper, we will cut it down to 2.5. And to make that even more sturdy, because we have 2 bookmarkers now, we will use 100-pound cardstock and cut that down to 2.5 inches and glue our bookmarks together. So you knock out 2 bookmarks at one time, especially since I'm creating 4 of these. It will make it super quick and fast. And I will just use my Barely Art glue to put together my bookmarks. I think bookmarks are a perfect thing. If you don't get the paper exact, just like in a card, you can trim away to make it look perfect. The recipient will never know. And I have a little bit of white at the bottom, so I didn't cut that absolutely perfect either. And I'm not here to be perfect. I will just put this together. So it's kind of fun to see that we all make mistakes, but it's so quick and easy to clean them up, and you don't have to start all over from scratch. Also, I suggest punching a hole in the top of the bookmark. I wanted to elevate the bookmark with the Lawn Fawn stamp set that is all about reading. And I decided to get out these frames out of my stash and stamp down the little squirrel and a sentiment. You could find anything in your stash, even a sentiment that you might want to put on your bookmark, and you don't even have to do this. You could actually skip this step if you wanted to. I just wanted to add this onto the front of the bookmark and color him up with Copic markers. I don't do that for every one of the books that I create. I am going to put a little bit of gray onto the squirrel. The squirrels in Virginia have gray on them and white tails. So I thought that that would be something fun to put on the book. And I love the saying, "I'm nuts for books." And later on, I will actually stamp a nut that is found in the set and add it to the bookmark. Now, when creating your bookmarks, you want to remember that if you do add something to them, you don't want it to be too bulky and you want it to be flat. And the reason you want it to be flat and not bulky is because they're going to be putting it in the book and you don't want them to pull it out and mess up the book marker. So I highly suggest just doing a small layer onto your bookmark. And I think it's fun that you create a bookmark, and this bookmark will be in the theme of, the fact that they're getting a blind date book. But it could be in any theme, and you can just adhere that down quickly. You could even use a postage stamp if you wanted to. Just use your imagination. Speaking of postage stamps, I have this die set from Tim Holtz, but they make lots of different die sets for postage. And I'm going to use that same stamp set, which I've linked below, to create a little stamp that's actually going to go onto the book. And I use Memento black ink to stamp out this little bookworm. Isn't he adorable? I am going to color him up, and I just think it is so sweet. It's just going to add a small bit of decoration to the page. I decided to do 2 different contrasting greens to go with this bookworm. Now I'm using Post-it note tape so that I can actually color this in. You could mask off the little worm and blend this in, but I didn't want to. I'm just going to color around him and use the postage note tape to stay within the lines, and have that nice little white border to go on the stamp. I think that's super adorable, and I will add the number 14 to this stamp to represent Valentine's Day. Just something cute for the front of the book. When you purchase a blind date book, it normally has a description. I created that and used the heart in the stamp set just to embellish the tag. Now, you can get these sayings from Goodreads to know what to write on the tag. I will use a bit of Winkastella just to add a little bit of glitter to the hearts. Now we have this created, as well as our bookmark that is just flat. So again, I emphasize you want to do that flat. I have some heart ribbon that I am going to use to put at the top of the bookmark where I punched the hole, and then I will just cut that off in a diagonal fashion. Doesn't have to be perfect. Then I think I will use twine to go into my tag. Now, you can tie this tag around the book, or you can just tie it and trim it off and stick it in a pocket. It is all up to you what you wish to do. And in some of the books, I tucked it in the pocket, and other ones I tied it around. I also decorated the back of this tag with a 6x6 paper. I wanted to include a little bit of tea to go in the book, but I want to take it up a notch. You can just leave it in the book so they see that it's tea, but I wanted to make a little tea pocket, and I'm going to make that tea pocket again out of the paper in my 6x6 paper pad. I will cut that paper down to 5.5 inches by 4 inches. And you want the pattern paper for the 4 inches facing towards you when you cut it. Now you will score this at 1/2 inch on each of the long sides, and then you will score it at 1 inch on the short side. So 1/2 inch on the 2 long sides and 1 inch on the long side. Then where it meets and makes a rectangle at the score lines, you're going to cut those apart. And this will help us make our pocket. Next, you will score all of the lines down good. And when you do adhere this, you want to make sure that you are not adhering it all the way down. And I will go over that. The reason is you don't want to impede the tea from sliding in and out of the pocket. And I thought this is just a great way to kind of decorate up the tea to go with the book and add an element. I am going to put a small amount of score tape. I'm not going to use glue. I want to use score tape so it holds together. And I'm going to put a very small amount down at the 2 bottom corners here to hold that part of the pocket down. I also find it easier to use the score tape because it quickly adheres and I don't have to hold down the glue. Next, we're going to do 2 more pieces of score tape right exactly where we just put the other 2. And that's actually going to hold the bottom pocket down when we push that up. And that way we'll have made a little pocket that the tea can easily slide in and then out of by the recipient. I also have another suggestion that's even super easier that I will show you later on in the video. But I do love how that turned out, and you can put it into your pocket. A suggestion for the front of your pocket is to add a sentiment. Here I added a heart with some words, and that can be tucked in the book. You can also take a 3x4 sheet of paper, and you can add double sticky adhesive to it. Put that on your tea bag, and you have that all decorated and can be tucked in the book. And don't forget to make your Valentine's Day card. If your person can't have chocolates, then I suggest that you add maybe Sour Patch Kids. I have one person that is allergic, and so that makes it great. Here's the finished product. For this one, I added 2 stamps. I actually stamped onto this piece of paper using the stamp set and tucked in those little Sour Patch Kids. I decorated this tag differently and added some Weeble people, and then just did a plain bookmark with regular cardstock, and then put in my Valentine's Day card. I will at the end of this video have a suggestion on what you can write inside of your book. My other book here, I did a bookmark. I tied this around instead of tucking it in. I added glossy accents to my bookworm. I have a little chocolate heart there, but I love these little Weeble people. And this one I made a tag using a heart. I decorated with a heart. I made a heart postage stamp. I decorated the tag with different patterned paper. I have a different Valentine's Day card. I used another one of those 3x4 notes to do the book. I just really love how this turned out. It's quite a surprise. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. I hope this has given you inspiration to spread joy to someone. And here's a suggestion from YouTube, and I'll see you next time.